I thought it would be best to do a video to stress how significant the impacts are going to be from Helene. We haven't seen this kind of rain in this short amount of time.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that flash flood emergency.
5 a.m. crack of dawn in Biltmore Village, and when the water started rising and we had to leave our first spot, I think that's when it really started to sink in, like, this is going to be bad.
It was going to be devastating, and not just for a few, but for many. There was a lot of disbelief and also uncertainty and anxiety, really.
Friday morning, half asleep, I heard a crack in the backyard, and something just sounded different about that one as this tree just plummeted down on top of me, and the ceiling started coming down. I was covered in insulation just as the entire house shook.
Yeah, and the whole back side of our house is completely destroyed. Our daughter's playset is completely destroyed.
When I got down to the end of my driveway, there were trees blocking my driveway at the road, and then the further you go up the road, there was more trees, and it just felt like it was hopeless. Like, it felt like we were never going to get out.
And it kind of hit me at that point just how bad this storm was going to be.
We were told it was going to be bad, and then it was this bad.
And that was just an hour.
So all the emergency management folks are
Day one, we honestly, the reality is, didn't know the gravity of the situation at all.
Day one, I was able to watch the news at 6 a.m. and, like a lot of people, lost power before the end of the 6 o'clock news. So I had an idea of what was happening, but I couldn't get to the station because we were trapped by water.
My husband and I were on vacation for our 10-year wedding anniversary. We had to borrow a car, we had to drive in. It was like apocalyptic.
We had no communication, we had no power. We had crews that couldn't get into work. We had flooded roads, we had rushing water, we had trees down.
Those U-Hauls floating down the river at that point, and then the power lines started to go.
It's not just that the water was rising, but just how fast it was taking out people's livelihoods.
Yeah, I mean, there are moments. There are moments that your heart breaks for these families, for people who have lost loved ones through no fault of their own. You know, when you're out in those communities and you hear those stories, it's tough sometimes.
Within 2 hours, I was on the road to Madison County to Marshall and Hot Springs, and that was really the first chance I had to understand that it wasn't just South Asheville, it wasn't just Biltmore Village, it wasn't the River Arch, it was like all of Western North Carolina.
You know, your heart breaks for them. I mean, you know, you consider yourself lucky that I didn't have the damage that some other people had.
And I just cried. I cried throughout all of it. When this all started, I cried for days, and I think so many people have, and it's okay to be emotional.
Some of it was transparent on the air, but there were a lot of tears and a lot of heartache. You know, they're professionals and they try to keep, you know, that face on, but they're real people dealing with real problems of their own. But they're committed. They're committed to their teammates and to this community, and I'm just so proud of them.
When you look at what everyone else has gone through, I mean, it's a tree, you know? I mean, I'm alive, my wife's alive, my dog's alive. What do I have to complain about?
So I think there was that initial shock, but I think it was that immediate, we're gonna get through this shock and we're gonna come together as a team and we're gonna make it through.
Like, if you can take some sort of a silver lining from it, it's been incredible to see just the way people are helping people they don't even know. Neighbors are meeting their neighbors for the first time.
Some of the things that we love best about the mountains will never be the same, but the people stepping up and helping other people to get back to that's going to be something special to report on.
You know, I always knew Western North Carolina and the mountains were resilient, but just seeing the work in action, honestly, it brings me to tears every single day.
I mean, just the sheer amount of people from everywhere that showed up to help has really been, it's been like an awesome thing to see.
It's just crazy to me when you see a 6-month-old baby and a mom having to go down a ladder to just leave her home to get into town and get supplies. She's like, you know, you can dwell on things or you can pick yourself up and make the best of the situation you have at hand.
Mitchell County manager told us it's the mountaineer spirit, and I think that's true for all of the counties in our area. I've just been so impressed.
I'm probably doing like everybody else is doing. I feel less fragile than I felt last week, and I am overwhelmed with the support that our community has received. Seeing what we have seen here on the ground it gives you faith in humanity.